I saw 25 new movies in October. Let's rank them all right now. Hold Your Breath is my least favorite movie of the month because I was bored out of my mind. It seems like Sarah Paulson has a deal with Hulu until she dies at this point, and this definitely won't help her case, seeing as I forgot most of it after a day after I watched it. As someone with allergies, it was too much dust for my liking. Hellboy the Crooked Man skipped theaters and went straight to digital, and after watching it, that decision makes a lot of sense. It's very low budget and has a lot going on to a point where you end up getting lost and not caring at all of what's going on screen. I do respect it though for sticking to the source material, but as someone who doesn't really care for the Hellboy character, it still felt like hell to watch. House of Spoils felt like I was watching someone try to mix the Bear and the Menu into one movie with a mix of horror. It starts out semi-interesting, but invests itself too much into the supernatural elements, which just makes it feel comical and funny rather than serious. I do feel bad for Ariana DeBose because after her Oscar win for West Side Story, she hasn't really been in anything good or noteworthy. Lonely Planet is once again another Netflix rom-com that feels exactly like the other ones they have made 10 times a year. Laura Dern seems to be following in the footsteps of Nicole Kidman and Anne Hathaway while falling in love with a younger man. None of the characters are likable and you never really feel the romance in this movie. It just feels like another generic cougar movie. Brothers feels like a movie that should be good because it's made from the director of Palm Springs, but it's not. It also features yet another wild sighting from Glen Coast, so she must be having the time of her life. It would have been so much better if it was actually funny and maybe if it was rewritten like 50 times, but the orangutan was actually pretty cool. Monster Summer felt like a new live-action Goosebumps movie, which is a good and a bad thing. It's cool to see David Henry direct stuff, and even though the movie feels too childish for me, it does have its moments of mystery. Mason Thames continues to be a very promising young actor, and I'm excited to see him in the new live-action How to Train Your Dragon movie next year. Don't Move is actually a decent thriller from Netflix, but it made me visibly angry with how much plot armor the serial killer had because he wasn't the sharpest tool in the shed. I really like Kelsey Asbill as an actress, but she doesn't really get to show much because she isn't really allowed to move because she's paralyzed for most of this movie, and the writers weren't willing to take any really big risks with the narrative. Venom: The Last Dance shows once again why Sony should not be allowed to own these Spider-Man characters, but it's still a fun watch. The first two acts were pretty much pointless, but once you get to the third act, you get a lot of action and see a good amount of symbiotes, which was cool. I've always liked Tom Hardy as Venom, but it seems like Sony has no clue where any of these Sony Spider-Man villain movies were going to lead in the first place. My Hero Academia Year Next suffers so much for me personally because I'm not caught up on the show. I think the last season I watched was the beginning of season 5. It also included all the heroes, which was just way too much for me to handle. I like when the other movies just focus on a couple of the main heroes instead of the whole bunch. Dark Knight as the villain was pretty underwhelming and just annoyed me to death the whole runtime, like get this imposter out of here. Goodrich sees Michael Keaton play a family man whose wife leaves him to enter rehab, and I like this one a decent bit even though it overstays its welcome. Surprisingly, I found myself laughing out loud a couple times at some of these jokes, and Michael Keaton and Mila Kunis gave great performances and shared some nice father-daughter scenes together. Salem's Lot was a fun movie to start out the Halloween horror season, but it's way too tame and cheap for my liking. If this was rated R, it would have been such a better movie because when you're dealing with vampires, you need to go rated R. It's just the rule for horror. PG-13 just is way too limited. I found myself having a really great time in the third act, but the second act was a slog to get through, but Lewis Pullman and Bill Camp were awesome, and it's definitely worth a watch. Piece by Piece flopped at the box office, but I thought it was a nice and unique idea from the mastermind Pharrell Williams, who has changed the music industry in such a large way. What hurt this one is that it doesn't appeal too much to kids, and adults might not want to see it because it is a Lego movie, but hearing some of these songs and needle drops for like Alright and Get Lucky were just mesmerizing, paired with some fascinating Lego visuals. Whitebird has finally come out after being delayed for years and years and years, and guess what? I actually liked it, which surprised the hell out of me. It's beautiful and heartbreaking in some of the best ways possible, but also in the worst way because they kill a character off just for shock value because it doesn't need to happen at all. The two young leads were great and had some nice chemistry, but it would have been a great movie if it wasn't a Wonder spinoff because that was just silly. Woman of the Hour is a nice directorial debut from Anna Kendrick, who I love a lot even though she's stuck playing the same character type these days. Daniel Zavato and Autumn Best really struck a chord with me and kept me very intrigued throughout the whole runtime. While some of the game show stuff fell out of place, I still think its tone is handled well and is a fast-paced watch, and Anna Kendrick shows a lot of promise in the director's chair. We Live in Time will please a lot of people more than it did for me, but I still liked it. My main issue with it is that I'll probably never rewatch it because it's so depressing because of how it tells the story of love and death in such a sad way. Florence Pugh and Andrew Garfield should be married in real life because this is some of the best on-screen chemistry I've ever seen, and I really enjoy the theme of focusing on the now in life and doing what you enjoy instead of waiting for your ultimate sadness or death in a life. The Apprentice might make a lot of voters angry from a certain side, but I don't care because it's a really good movie. Aaliyah Bazzi treads a fine line while making this a comedy, but also giving you vital information about Donald Trump and Roy Cohen. Sebastian Stan is showing why he's one of the best Marvel actors outside of his role of Bucky Barnes, but it's Jeremy Strong who steals the show entirely and commands the screen, and if it was up to me, I would nominate him for supporting actor. The Outrun features the best performance from Saoirse Ronan, who is becoming one of my favorite actors of all time, and this should get her another Oscar nomination. She plays a very fractured character who is an alcoholic. That makes you kind of hard for you to like her character, but that's the whole point of the movie, and watching her try to get better is such an emotional watch. It's one that I'll be thinking about for some time, and it's also shot beautifully. I thought it was a very beautiful film to look at. Saturday Night is Jason Reitman's best film since Juno, and this is one of the most hectic movies of the year for good reason because you're dealing with some of the most problematic people in Saturday Night Live history. I've always been fascinated by the old showings of Saturday Night Live, and this is our peek behind the scenes, and it feels like a blast because the screenplay is so sharp and the editing is heavily detailed. Big props to Gabriel LaBelle, Corey Michael Smith, and Matt Wood for being my favorites in the cast. Your Monster is a really good time at the theaters and a fun monster rom-com, which is something I didn't imagine myself saying this year, but here we are. Melissa Barrera just continues to do so well in these horror movies, and I really do hope that she gets a star in some other bigger movies again after Scream kicked her out sadly. I thought that was just really just a terrible decision by them because she is so great in these movies. It's kind of like a twist on Beauty and the Beast in like some sort of a musical way, and it's also really funny. It's like rivaling some movies for funniest movie of the year for me. I was laughing out loud a lot. I really do recommend checking this one out on streaming when it does hit streaming. Smile 2 had no right to be as great as it was. I was actually a big fan of the first one, and it had some of the best marketing of all time, but the second one upgraded in almost every aspect. Parker Finn opens the film up with a fantastic one-take tracking shot, and his work on the whole movie and making it more artistic works so well for me. I can also confirm that I jumped like 10 times during this movie because these jump scares were really effective and come out of nowhere. The music is also really good, and if the Academy was nice here to horror movies, Naomi Scott would definitely be nominated because she is that good. A Different Man has a premise unlike any movie I've ever seen, but it turned out to be a really great thing. It's so captivating, but it's also so satirical and insane because so much is going on at once. Adam Pearson proves why he should be in more movies because he's so charismatic and likable here. Sebastian Stan is at his best here while going insane because his character is obsessed with getting back what he lost while also grappling with someone else living what could have been his best life. It's What's Inside is one of the most bizarre and unhinged movies that you will watch this year. Going in blind on this one is a must because it makes it such a better experience, and the surprises along the way are well worth it. I love the ensemble of the cast here, but the technical elements are what take the cake as the most impressive parts of the movie. The lighting and editing are top notch and make it feel like such a surreal event of a movie. The Shadow Strays is quite literally my favorite action movie of the year. I wasn't prepared for how relentless this one would be, but it starts out basically with a non-stop 20-minute action sequence, and after that you're on a roller coaster of action for almost 2.5 hours. The camera work and direction was really impressive because it always stays with the action and keeps the characters in the middle of the frame, which is something that we complain about in, action movies from America, but this was done so well, and I hope we do get a sequel because this was just exhilarating in the best ways possible. Conclave is strikingly gripping and crafted so meticulously by Edward Berger, and I have to stop underestimating him as a director after this and All Quiet on the Western Front were both great. The screenplay is one of the best of the year. It kind of felt like 12 Angry Men mixed with Succession, with these chess pieces slowly falling into place. You would think a PG-rated film about voting for a new pope would be boring, but it's very entertaining and captivating at the same time. Ray Fiennes once again gives another great performance, and the score and main theme left a huge impact on me. Joker Folie à Deux is my favorite movie of the month, and I'm not ashamed to say that I loved it. I know some will disagree with me, but I'm happy that Todd Phillips took some swings here and made a unique sequel instead of something just very generic. It really reminded me of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest while we examine the mental state of Arthur Fleck and how he's a broken man, and all anyone really wants from him is entertainment and a spectacle of the Joker. Joaquin Phoenix and Lady Gaga give some of my favorite performances of the year, and I actually did love the music sequences. I do listen to the music a lot now, and the more I think about this movie, the more I love it. That's all the 25 new movies I watched this month ranked from worst to best. Feel free to leave your own rankings down below in the comments. I would love to talk to you guys about that. If you enjoyed this video though, make sure you do leave a like, subscribe to the channel. We're on the road to 800 subscribers. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.